We are live. Hello, good day. Lee Hayward here with the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chat for Friday, April the 28th. Hopefully this is coming through loud and clear. Just make sure everything seems to be working fine on my end, and hopefully it is coming through loud and clear on your end. So the way these video chats work is I'm going to be hanging out here for the next hour-ish, answering questions and topics of discussion related to fitness and nutrition. So if there's anything that you would like to discuss with regards to health and wellness, fitness and nutrition, any specific challenges you have when it comes to your workouts, if there's any questions you have about, nutrition or building muscle, losing fat, whatever, feel free to type your questions and topics of discussion into our video chat window there, and I'll do the best that I can to help you out over the course of our chat. So we're streaming from Facebook as well as YouTube. So hopefully this is coming through loud and clear. If it is, please let me know into the chat window. And if you're on YouTube, there's a chat window to the side. One side or the other, I don't know, depending how it's laid out on your screen. And if you're on Facebook, there's probably comments below the video. I think that's usually the way it works. But bottom line, somewhere around the video, there's a place where you can type in questions and comments and all that kind of stuff, and I'll be able to access that through my end here. So we have Robert joining in. He says he made it in time. Yes, you certainly did, Robert. You are here on time. Good stuff. AJ saying, I miss the live streams being later, 5 p.m. Eastern time. Yes, we've changed things around, and this is, I'm not sure if this is going to be a forever thing, but it's a for now thing. So for the next little while, the live video Q&As are going to be at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And normally this is the time when my co-host Jeff Samatero is able to join in, but Jeff is actually away this week, so I'm running solo. But nonetheless, I think I can handle it. I think I can pull off a video Q&A by myself. But it's nice when I have my co-host Jeff Samatero joining in as well, because he adds a lot of value and insights to the video chats. We have Rashawn joining in. Hello, long time no see. We have Jacob joining in, saying loud and clear. Good stuff, good stuff. Awesome. Well, guys, glad to have you tuning in. And again, for those who are just hopping onto the chat, and if you're new to these video chats, I want to welcome you. It's always nice to have new people joining in. And the way it works is I'm going to be hanging out answering questions and topics of discussion related to health and wellness, fitness and nutrition. So if there's anything you want to ask, feel free to type those questions and topics of discussion into our chat window there, and I'll do the best that I can to help you out over the course of our chat today. All right, so let's jump in. Actually, there was a question sent in earlier today, and I'm going to address this one first. This one is from Khalid, and he was asking about eggs. When bodybuilders eat eggs, he says a lot of times they're only eating the egg whites and they're throwing the yolks out. And he's wondering if whole eggs are bad. Why did people do this? And is it bad if somebody were to eat, say, 10 eggs a day, for example? And he's wondering why. What's the deal between eggs, egg whites, and whole eggs, and blah blah blah? Because you hear mixed reviews. Because like some people are saying, well, whole eggs are a great source of nutrition, but then you see a lot of bodybuilders are only eating the egg whites and they're throwing out the yolks. And like, what's the deal? You need to look at the bigger picture. First off, it's not good, bad, right, or wrong. It's what are you trying to achieve? And a whole egg, right? It has, on average, depending on the size of the egg, but most average size eggs, there's about 6 grams of protein, there's 5 grams of fat, and maybe about 1 gram of carbohydrate. And that is primarily fat. Even though weight-wise, 5 grams of fat, 6 grams of protein, 1 gram of carb, like you're looking at, oh, well, there's more protein by weight in terms of macros. But when you look at the actual caloric consumption, fat is more calorie dense. Fat has 9 calories per gram, whereas protein only has 4 calories per gram. So if you're eating a whole egg, the majority of those calories are coming from fat. If you're trying to eat a high-fat diet, like you're on some keto diet or you're on a high-fat diet or you just want an extra source of fat in your meals, and hey, whole eggs are a great way to get that, right? It's a high source of fat. And it is some protein and vitamins and minerals and all that stuff as well. So there's a lot of nutritional value to eggs. But when it comes to bodybuilding, a lot of times bodybuilders are trying to maximize protein consumption and maybe control the fat. Not saying eliminate it, but you don't want more fat than protein, because that's just, if you're eating more fat than protein, then you're going to end up having a lot of excess calories, and very often it's going to get spilled over into stored body fat, put you into caloric surplus, and could throw off your whole dietary goals, especially if you're trying to lose body fat. So that's why a lot of times you'll see bodybuilders either have egg whites, or they'll get the whole eggs and they'll separate the yolks from the whites. Personally, I don't do that. I used to back in the day, like literally go through the hassle of separating the yolks from the, crack an egg into a bowl and scooping out the yolks and blah, blah, blah. Nowadays, you can buy cartons of liquid egg whites. That's what I do, right? So I'll go to the grocery store. It's usually in the egg dairy section of the grocery store. Most in North America anyway. I'm not sure what it's like in the rest of the world, but in North America, virtually every grocery store you go into, in the egg dairy section, you can get cartons of liquid egg whites. Just like you get a carton of milk, you can get a carton of egg whites. And this is so convenient. 1 cup of liquid egg whites is approximately 8 egg whites, if you were to break it and crack it and separate it and blah, 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 do all that. So it saves a lot of hassle, and it's very cost effective and super convenient. So that's what I do. Now, I will still have whole eggs, and usually my ratio is probably I'll have like a cup of liquid egg whites and then maybe 1 to 2 whole eggs in there. So I will get a little bit of fat and the nutritional value of the whole eggs, but I'm getting a lot more pure protein from the liquid egg whites. And that's what a lot of bodybuilders will do, is they will use liquid egg whites, or egg whites in general, because it is pure protein, very low in calories, and it's a great way to bump up your protein intake without adding a lot of extra calories to your diet. So if someone's on a fat loss diet, that's one of the great ways to bump up protein and keep calories low, is through egg whites. So that's the reason why. And it's not that whole eggs are bad, right? I mean, it's everything is good in moderation, but again, you don't want to have too much of it and throw off your macros and end up having a high fat diet when you're trying to have a low fat diet. So that's the reason why. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. But then that was a question came in from Khalid. He sent that one in advance. And that's something you can do. If you have any questions that you would like to discuss and you're unsure if you'll be able to join into the live video Q&A, you can send them in advance, whether you send it to me through Facebook Messenger, and that's what Khalid did. He sent it in through Facebook, or you can send me an email. And I've got my email and contact information in the video description below. So feel free to do that. And that's helpful for those who may not be able to tune into the live Q&A. Maybe you're catching the replay afterwards. You can send in questions in advance and still participate. All right, let's jump in. So now I'm going to wet my whistle. I got myself a bottle of kombucha here. All right, which is technically tea. Kombucha is still tea. So this is a Tea with Lee video Q&A. It's fermented tea. All right, what else we got? Let's see. Eagle Eye John. Hi, Lee. Would you train if you was ill or a cold? I made it today. Would you train if you was ill? It depends on how ill I was. Again, it depends. If it's just a mild, like, hey, I got a little bit of a sniffle, I got a little bit of a cough or something like that, I probably would still train. I would scale back the intensity, maybe scale back the volume, but I generally wouldn't let a little, snotty nose or a little hacky throat or scratchy throat or something like that stop me from working out. Now, if I was full on sick, like puking my guts up, or I had diarrhea or whatever, like I was feeling sick, really, really sick, no, I'm not going to go to the gym. I'm not going to exercise. And you have to kind of play it by ear. And I actually made some videos about this, should you work out if you're sick? And again, it depends on how bad it is. If you feel good and you can work out, like feel good, meaning like it's not hindering your ability to function and move and to do things, then yeah, you can still go work out. Obviously, it'd be nice to be more considerate, carry some hand sanitizer and tissues and all that stuff, so you're not spreading your snotty nose and fingers all over the gym or whatever if you're doing that. Especially now, post-pandemic, everybody's more alert and on heightened senses. You know, you hear somebody cough, now everybody's like, you know, well, what's on the go, right? I wonder if they're contagious, if they got the cooties or something. So, you know, be respectful and courteous of others for sure. If you are feeling sick, I mean, if you're coughing and sneezing and hacking your lungs out, then maybe you don't want to be out in a public gym and doing that around other people. But if it's a little minor thing, I'd still work out. Very often what I do if I am feeling sick is I like getting out for walks, because I find just the fresh air, light activity really helps to clear my head, clear my sinuses, especially like if I've got like a bit of a sinus infection or something like that, or a hacky, snotty nose. Getting outside and just that light activity, breathing in some fresh air really helps to open up the airways. And I very often find that during those walks, I can blow out a lot of boogers, if you will, like get the hack and the guck off you for a while. And I find that's some temporary relief, and just that light activity makes me feel better in general. So that's what I will very often do if I am feeling ill. But I'm not going to go and push myself. Like, I'm not going to go try and set a new 1 rep max or set a PR or whatever. Like, I'm not going to go do some crazy high intensity training if I'm not feeling 100%. I'm only going to push myself 100% if I'm feeling 100%. If I'm not feeling 100%, then I'm going to scale back the volume and intensity accordingly. So hopefully that answers your question, John. We've got Ange joining in. Ange Jeremy. Haley managed to break through the discomfort of a 2,000 calorie surplus, as you call it. Stomach had stretched, now eating at 4,000 calories extra a day. Lifts have skyrocketed. Bulking is best. If you're really in a 2,000 calorie surplus, again, I discussed this last week because we were chatting about it. Like, that is overkill. And I mean, yeah, you can probably go a few weeks and make some really good gains. But if that is a true 2,000 calorie surplus, you can't gain muscle that fast. You're going to fill out your glycogen stores, and then the rest is going to be stored as body fat. And that's just the reality. Like, you cannot just, for every calorie you eat, it's not like that calorie is going to be stored as lean muscle mass. Even if you're working out really hard and you're pushing yourself in the gym, those excess calories are still going to get converted to body fat once you go over and above your calorie needs. So just putting it out there, right? I mean, we had a lengthy chat about this last week, so I'm not going to go in more detail about it here, but and I'm speaking from experience. I know this because I was, in my younger days, I had the goal. I wanted to be a 250-pound bodybuilder, because that's what I used to see in the magazines. People were 250 pounds. I managed to get myself up to like 242 or somewhere around there. That was where I peaked out. And I was eating and everything in sight. It was just eat, like just a massive calorie surplus. Again, I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was like all day long I was just slamming back food. And my goal was to hit 250, and I couldn't. I hit 242, and I peaked out. Couldn't get any bigger than that. And I was eating a ton of food. But then when it came time to diet, guess what? I had to lose over 40 pounds. I was 242, and I was thinking, well, man, 242, maybe I'll drop 20, 30 pounds. I'll still be over 200 pounds, and I'll be ripped. I had to diet way down under 200 pounds again in order to get visible abdominal definition. So basically, I piled on an extra 40 pounds of body fat. Yes, you fill up your frame, you fill up your clothes. Yes, the lifts in the gym can go up, especially like your max bench and squat and deadlift, because just having more mass on your frame, even if it's fat mass, can help with the leverages and some of those max effort lifts. But if your goal is to have a lean muscular physique, it's like it's 2 steps back to take 1 step forward. Like, it's not helping. So that extra calorie surplus, that extra fat you're going to pile on, if you stick with it for long enough, it's really just going to be something you're going to have to diet off afterwards. So personally, and like all the guys that I coach, especially within the Muscle After 40 blueprint, like, we focus on fat loss first, get yourself lean, and then once you're at a body fat level that you're comfortable with, let's focus on making slow gains while keeping the body fat low. And we have 3 phases. I'll just briefly outline them here. Like, phase 1 is the metabolic reboot. We focus on just improving eating and lifestyle habits, exercise habits, like just lay the foundation, get yourself healthy, optimize your health and fitness and nutrition, and just break any bad habits that you have. So we just lay the foundation with the metabolic reboot. So optimize your health and strength and fitness, optimize your metabolic and anabolic hormones, get yourself healthy. Get healthy in order to lose weight and improve your fitness. Don't try and lose weight to get healthy. We want to get healthy first. So that's what the metabolic reboot does. Phase 2 is the fat loss accelerator. This is where we step things up a notch and we really dial in some advanced nutrition strategies and training strategies to strip away that excess body fat to a level that's comfortable for the individual. Like some guys want to go all the way and get visible abdominal definition and have a full-on six-pack. Some guys just want to have a flat stomach and lose the gut. Like they don't care about having six-pack abs. They just say, like, I just don't want to be fat anymore. I just want to be, you know, a normal body weight for my height and age and everything else. I just want to be, you know, lean and healthy. I don't care about stepping on bodybuilding stages and, you know, ripped abs and whatever. I just want to be lean and healthy and feel good. So whatever it is for the individual, we focus on that with the fat loss accelerator. Once they're at a body fat that they're comfortable with, then we go into the lean gain body recomp. And this is where we would focus on keeping your body fat low and then maximizing lean gains and then filling out your frame with lean muscle mass while keeping the body fat low. So it's none of this bulking, like cutting and bulking and all that, because bulking and cutting, it's not a sustainable and not a healthy approach. Because very often what happens when you bulk, you end up gaining too much fat, and then when you cut, you end up losing too much muscle. So we want to focus on body recomposition. That's what we focus on these days. All right, moving on. We have AJ's joining in. In terms of snacks, what would you say is the best go-to snacks that you like to consume, like yogurt, beef jerky, fruits? I wonder what protein snacks you consume to keep things ticking. Snacks. First off, I mean, meals is most important. Like I would lay the foundation with your meals. And if you are consistent with meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner, I mean, like that, the 3 squares a day, get that in you first. That's going to minimize a lot of the need for snacking. But with that being said, I do have my share of snacks, and it really depends on what I am doing that day. If I'm out doing a lot of activity, like if I'm going for a big bike ride or something, I'm going to pack snacks with me. I usually take energy bars. I will have, when I go to the gym and then when I go for bike rides, I put like carbohydrate powder and amino acid powder in my water bottles. Protein bars, you know, they're super convenient. Like in my car, I keep a box of protein bars in case of water. So when I'm out running errands, if I get hungry and peckish and I need a snack, well, I got a healthy option available, right? I got a protein bar and I can have a bottle of water versus having to, you know, stop into a convenience store or gas station or drive-through window or something like that. I got something to tide me over. So that's usually my go-to because it's just so quick and convenient. When I'm home, I like things like fruit. There's a fruit bowl in the kitchen, you know, apples and bananas and oranges and whatever. Like, you know, have that available, and I'll snack on fruit throughout the day. We have in the fridge, we always keep like strawberries and grapes and berries and melon and whatever. Like I eat a lot of fruit. I'll mix it up depending on what I'm in the mood for, depending on what's available at the grocery store when we go, right? So the fruit is a staple for sure. Cottage cheese and Greek yogurt, those are 2 great foods I love. And very often, like, hey, have some fruit, have some cottage cheese, or have some fruit and have some Greek yogurt. I mean, you're getting a bit of carbohydrate and get a bit of protein there. And it's a very quick and convenient snack. I also get packs of pre-cooked chicken, pre-cooked turkey. Like that's cool. Like we were actually, just before I did this video chat, I did a Costco run and stocked up on that stuff. But like at Costco, at least here in Canada, they sell the pre-grilled, pre-sliced chicken breasts. Like, I mean, it's packed up for you. I mean, you can even get them in individual serving size packs if you want, like 100-gram servings. But I buy the bulk container just to save on packaging, and it's a little cheaper. But you buy it already. Your chicken pre-cooked and sliced up. I mean, it's just ready to eat. Like you could take that chicken and throw it into a salad. I mean, you could have it on a wrap or whatever. I mean, it's ready to go, like instant chicken. So, I mean, convenience, super convenient. So that's what I'll have for like fast food or snacks. I mean, I'll still buy regular raw chicken and cook it up from time to time as well. But that is so convenient. You can't go wrong. I mean, it's literally healthy fast food. So that's some of the go-to stuff that I'll have. But the big thing with that you want to focus on with your nutrition is your main meals, right? Your breakfast, lunch, your dinner, get that first. And then if you are filling in the gaps, eat it according to your activity level. So if you're going to be more active, that's when you can add in more calories through snacks and things like that, like in between meal nutrition. If you're working out and doing long duration exercise, then you want pre and intra workout nutrition through there. But it really depends on your activity level, how much you are going to eat. And that will, for me, vary greatly, because like sometimes if I go for a big bike ride, like I could literally burn 2, 3, 4, as much as 5,000 calories extra. And I have literally done that. I know that sounds extreme, but I've done some extreme bike rides. Like last year, we did a big ride, myself and a group. We did over 200 kilometers in a day. I mean, the ride it was over 9 hours of moving time. Right. So like, that's a lot of calories. It's a lot of calories burned. I mean, I can't remember what exactly the calorie consumption was of that ride, but it was up in the like 5,000 calorie range for sure. So I mean, it was a massive calorie day, and in order to be able to sustain that kind of activity, we were eating throughout the whole ride, like eating and drinking calories throughout. So I mean, in order to keep the energy levels up. But so that's why it varies depending on what you're doing. Now, if I'm just sitting around the house tapping on the keyboard, I'm a keyboard warrior doing, desk work, then obviously my calorie needs and my snack consumption needs are going to go way down. So it depends on your activity level, but those are some of my go-tos for sure. So hopefully that helps, AJ. Robert is joining in. He said, what is the main reason some people tear a muscle? Lifting too damn heavy. That's the main number one reason. Now, there are other reasons, right? Because I mean, sometimes you can get like sedentary people and who don't lift, and they're not in the gym working out, who bend over to tie up their shoes and then throw their back out and tear something, snap something, whatever. But for most healthy, active people, who work out and go to the gym and all that stuff, if they're tearing a muscle, it's because they're pushing beyond their limits. They're pushing the limits of their muscles tearing from tendon and ligament. They're pushing max effort. That's generally what happens. Now, sometimes there's freak accidents. Like you're just in a bad, like wrong place, wrong time. It's something just doesn't fire right. Like you could be doing an exercise even with submaximal weights, but maybe like your form moves a little bit, or you kind of get a bit of a muscle spasm and you twist and move. And then even if it's submaximal weight, just the fact that you're not in the proper alignment, proper groove, now as you're doing the exercise, you may pull, strain, or tear something. So I mean, that's another reason. But the main one for sure is just lifting too darn heavy. That's the biggest one for sure. And not warming up. Like that goes kind of hand in hand. Like you're lifting too much or not warming up properly before lifting heavy. And I've been like, every time that not every time, but a lot of times that I've had injuries, those were two things. I remember one time I tore my first muscle tear was just lifting too heavy. Right? Like I was pushing heavy, and I had a number in mind that I wanted to hit. Right, I was doing a 5x5 workout, and literally on the 5th set, the 5th rep, that's when I tore my muscle, because I wanted to hit that 5x5. I was stubborn, but on that 5th set, like if I was doing it now, I probably would have said, you know what, this is too heavy. I probably would have racked the weight after a rep or two, and said I just don't have it in the tank. But I was so stubborn, I pushed through and ended up tearing a muscle because of it. Other times I tore a muscle. I remember one time I tore my biceps because I didn't warm up properly, and I was also doing an exercise that I wasn't familiar with, and in just bad form and not warmed up enough. So I ended up tearing a muscle then. And then there was another time I was tore a muscle that was kind of like a freak accident. I was surfing, learning to surf, doing like beginner surf lessons, and I got swept up in the wave. And when I did, instead of just letting go of the surfboard and, covering your head so you don't get hit with anything, I was on my surfboard, like paddling out in the wave, and the wave came up. And when it did, I flipped in the wave, and I held onto the board. And as the wave broke and stuff, it jerked my arms, and with the board still in my hands, and I was, white knuckle gripping the board here. And as the wave jerked, it literally pulled my arm and tore my bicep. So it was, again, like I was just at the mercy of the ocean there, right? Ideally, I would have just like let go of everything and just turtled and just rolled in the waves, and then came to shore, right, in the surf of the wave. But I tried to hold on to the board and everything else, and then the wave just literally jerked it out of my arm, and in that motion popped my my right bicep and tore it. So yeah, those are the reasons I've had injuries, but the main one, as you mentioned, just lifting too damn heavy. Lee's joining in. Welcome, Lee. Glad to have you tuning in. Khalid's joining in. Hey, thanks for the answer to your question. You're welcome. Khalid was the one I answered the first one, but the whole eggs versus egg whites. You're welcome, Khalid. We have Robert Allenson joining in. Lee, this is my first live. Welcome, Robert. Always glad to have new people joining in. Says, I watch your video every week after the fact, but just got lucky that I'm working out and stumbled on the feed. So great to see you live. Well, welcome, Robert. Glad to have you joining in. And just to let you know, this is going to be the new time of our video chats. We're going to be having them a bit earlier in the day at 1 p.m. Eastern time instead of 5 p.m. Eastern time. And just joining in now, talking about his calorie surplus. I'm eating 6,000 calorie surplus, eating well over 12,000 calories a day, strong as hell, gained over 10 pounds in a week. Can't wait to gain another 10 next week. I'm going to just move on. Yeah, you can gain 10 pounds in a week. Most of it's going to be water, glycogen, and fluid, but you cannot gain 10 pounds of muscle in a week, right? It's physically impossible to gain 10 pounds of lean, dry muscle tissue, even if you were taking all the anabolic performance enhancing drugs in the world. Nobody's gaining 10 pounds a week. All right. Now, can you gain 10 pounds of weight? Yeah, it's mostly fluid retention and water and bloat and all that. But that has a limit. There's a ceiling to that. Like once you've filled out your glycogen stores, you've maxed out your fluid retention stores and everything else, that extra calories gets stored in the body fat. If you don't believe me, keep doing it and just let your waistline grow until the point you say, like, holy shit, my belly is growing faster than anything else. I think I'm turning into a fat ass. I might have to go on a diet soon. Anyway, moving on. Neil's joining in. He says, good morning, Lee. What are your thoughts about optimal number of sets per muscle group per week? I currently use a total body 3 times a week, 3 by 8 per compound exercise with a controlled tempo. Optimal number of sets per muscle per week. I hate this answer, but I got to give it. It depends. It depends on the individual. Like, what's your current fitness level? Like, how long have you been training for? What are you training for? Are you young? Are you old? Are you coming back after a layoff? Or have you been working out consistently for years and you're now stuck in a plateau and trying to bust out of it? Are you getting ready for a bodybuilding show? Are you getting ready for a sporting event? Like, what's the situation? And I kind of put some real world numbers. Like, if you have someone who's brand new, never worked out before, someone else who's been working out for 10 years consistently, the optimal number of sets is totally different, right? If I have a 20-year-old who's trying to bulk up and build muscle, or I have a 50-year-old office worker who's trying to trim down and lose weight, the optimal number of sets and rep are totally different, right? There's so many variables, and that's the challenging part to fitness and nutrition. Is you could talk to people and you could get advice. Like, I can go on Google and I can search, like, what's the best workout program? What's the best diet program? What's this? What's that? I can go and follow all the different social media fitness influencers, and they may have their own methodology. And it may be right for a certain person, but it's not right for everybody. Again, like, I'll use that example I just shared. If you got a 20-year-old athlete who's trying to fill out his frame, bulk up, and maximize strength and muscle mass and everything else, that's totally different than a 50-year-old office worker who's, overweight, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, pre-diabetic, and he got to lose weight for health and fitness and wellness. 2 totally different scenarios. And what might work for the 20-year-old athlete could be way overkill for the 50-year-old office worker. Vice versa, what might work really well for the 50-year-old office worker could be not nearly optimal for the 20-year-old athlete. So it's not right, wrong, good, bad, or anything like that. It depends on the individual. And this is where it gets so tricky, is when people say, like, what's optimal? Because it depends on the individual. And that's why it's such a challenge when these questions come in. So I'm trying to do the best I can to just give you the broader picture perspective and educate on this. Now, as far as what you should do, look at what you've been currently doing. Like, what are you currently doing, and monitor your results, and how is that working for you? Like, are you making progress with whatever it is you're currently doing? Now, if you're not doing anything, like you're just getting back to the gym after a layoff or whatever, then start with something. Start conservative. Always err on the conservative side, and then just build it up week after week, right? Just try to be better than you were before. That's the key thing when it comes to fitness. Better than you were before. Like, don't get hung up on, is this perfect? Is this optimal? Is this, the latest scientifically proven system that's going to maximize efficiency and muscle gain and blah, blah, blah. Is it better than you were before? If it's better than you were before, you're on the right track, right? That's all you need to focus on. And just keep getting better than you were before. So this week, try to be better than you were last week. Next week, try to be better than you were this week, and just keep getting better than you were before. And if you ever do that, it's going to improve. Now, to kind of throw out some real world numbers there, as far as optimal sets and reps and all that, and 8 reps per exercise, it's kind of in that mid-range. Now, some exercises work really good with those mid-range reps. Some work better with higher reps. Some work better with lower reps. And I actually made a video about this. If you do a search for Lee Hayward, how many reps to build muscle, I think that's the name of the video. Also put a blog post covering the same thing. I talked about this in more detail. But with the reps, this is how I like to break it down. Big compound lifts, benches, squats, overhead presses, rows, big, heavy barbell compound lifts. I use lower repetitions with those. So somewhere like 5 repetitions, like a classic 5x5 program works really well for those big barbell lifts. For your moderate compound lifts, so like a lot of machine exercise, like a leg press, a lat pull down, bicep curls, shoulder presses, and things like that. Some of the, not the big heavy power lifts, but the mid-range compound lifts. For those exercises, I usually use higher repetitions, like in that 8 to 10 repetition range, maybe 8 to 12 repetition range, somewhere in that range for those lifts. I find that that's kind of the sweet spot, more of the hypertrophy range, where you're getting enough time under tension, but it's not super heavy that you're, maxing out, but kind of 8 to 12, somewhere in that range, 10 being the sweet spot. For isolation exercises, I usually go higher. So maybe 15 reps or more. And that could be for like calves and abs, certain small isolation work, maybe like side lateral raises, leg extensions, things like that. A lot of those smaller isolation exercises I find work better with higher repetitions, more time under tension, and really feeling the muscles work. So that's how I go about structuring the reps. The bigger the exercise, the lower the reps. Mid-range exercise, mid-range reps. And, of course, lighter exercises, I do lighter weights and higher reps. Now, that's a generalization in and of itself, because there's always exceptions to the rule. And I'll give you a prime example. Have you ever heard of the 20-rep squat program? Right? Like, that's totally contradicting everything I just said. It's a big, heavy compound lift that you do for 20 reps. And that's brutally hard, but also very effective. So, again, with all these things, there are generalizations, but in certain situations, we can take those generalizations and turn it totally upside down. So it depends. And going back to it again, it depends, right? There's not a one size fits all answer. And that's where it really helps to have an experienced coach who's been through these different situations and can kind of explain it, versus someone who's very narrow-minded or limited in their experience, and they think there's only one way to do it, right? And a lot of, again, not knocking anybody, but a lot of novice coaches and new personal trainers and stuff, like, they went through their certification program and they learned their textbook knowledge and everything else, and they got the right answer that they had to fill in to pass their exam and all that, and they think that's the way it's done, right? The program said we do this, and then if somebody comes along, then I give them this. But in the real world, sometimes you need to manipulate things based on the situation, right? Like, again, two people could have two totally different situations. So that's where having that real world experience and practicality can make a difference versus just following the cookie cutter textbook line. So hopefully that helps. And Neil, if you want some help with this, feel free to reach out to me. Like, and that applies to anybody watching this. Like, if there's any questions here that we want to elaborate more on, feel free to reach out to me. You can either send me an email or you can send me a Facebook message and we can have a chat. All right. Let's see what else we got there. All right, where are we to now? We have, let's see. Got Sean joining in. Hey, where are we going here now? Hello, you good? Yep, I'm good. Thanks for joining in. Joe is joining in. Joe O'Connor. So I mix it up every daily. I don't keep the same routine. Mix up weights, reps, some days more, some days less. It works great for me. Pull one day, lift. Pull one day, lift one day. All right. I'm not sure what you mean by pull and lift. Unless it's like push and pull. Maybe that's what you meant to say. I'm not sure. But hey, for the key thing here, if it's if what you're doing is working, you're seeing results, and you're happy with it and you're comfortable with it, keep doing it until something changes within those circumstances. Like if you get to the point where your progress slows down or you're not happy with the program or whatever, then you can change it. But if it's working, it's okay to do it. Like a simple program that you do consistently. If it's working, you're getting results and you enjoy it, like keep doing it. You don't have to, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, as they say. And that type of training, I mean, I know it sounds so sporadic and everything else, like mixing it up. Some days you do more, some days you do less. There's actually power in that. And that's usually how I train myself. Now, I kind of have a general structure in mind of what I want to do, like with my workouts, and that I have a rough idea, but I'm not connected to that. Like if I say, my schedule says I should do a heavy, high intensity workout, but I didn't sleep well the night before, or maybe I'm under a lot of stress or just busy or whatever, and I'm just like, I'm mentally and physically exhausted, then I'm not going to go in and try to do a high intensity workout if I'm not able to exert high intensity, because it's just a wasted effort. On those days, I will do a low intensity workout. Maybe I'll just do a cardio session instead, or maybe I'll go in and do just easier workouts. Maybe I'll just go in there and do some light machine exercises, or focus on some mobility and flexibility work, or things that very often we sometimes neglect with our heavy power workouts that we should do. So sometimes I'll go in there and just do an easy workout if I feel that's appropriate. Other days, I may have scheduled an easy workout, but I'm like, man, I got energy to burn today. I feel good. I might go in there and end up doing a high intensity workout. So it's okay to, as Joe says, mix it up, some days more, some days less. If you're in tune with your body to the point where you know that and you can adjust it accordingly. I mean, in the old days, they used to call it instinctive training. And a lot of people used to knock it and say, oh, well, that's not scientific. It's not proven. It's not this. But if someone's been doing this for a long time and you're really in tune with your body and you know what works for you, instinctive style training is very powerful. Where it's not ideal is someone who's brand new and like you say train instinctively. They're like, I don't know. I never worked out before. Like what? they don't understand like what does a high energy day and a low energy day, and they don't understand like, hey, what's it feel like to have delayed onset muscle soreness, and what's the difference between muscle soreness and a muscle injury. And like if you don't have the years of experience to know all this stuff, it's good to have a structured program to follow, where you usually start off very conservative and then build it up gradually and learn this as you go. But if you're at the stage where you already have this and you're very comfortable, then yeah, as simple as that is, it's actually a very powerful way to train. And that's the end goal, is to get people to that level where they instinctively know what they need to do. So again, good for you, Joe. And not being rude here, but based on the profile picture and the gray hair and everything else, I would assume, you've probably been doing this a while, right? You've been around the block, right? You're not a 20-something-year-old. So, hey, you've got those years of experience to know when to push it and when to back it off, right? As Kenny Rogers said, you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. Same applies with your workouts. Let's see what else we got. All right, moving on. Thanks, Lee. Love the detailed answer as always. Have a great weekend. All right, you're welcome. All right, let's see what we got here. You're welcome. You're welcome. Let's see. There might be some issues there. People are saying some issues with chat questions not coming through. If they're not coming through, I'm not sure if that is an issue. I'm reading what's coming through on my end. Now, I'm using StreamYard, which is a third-party service that allows me to stream through YouTube as well as Facebook. But if it's not coming through, post it again, right? You can do that. You can certainly do that if you need to. All right. And if there is some tech issues, then hopefully we'll get that sorted out in the future. But for now, it seems to be working fine on my end anyway. All right. Let's see what else we got there. Coming through there. All right. Well, that's weird. I think we're having some tech issues. YouTube problems or Facebook problems. I'm just curious, who's joining in through YouTube and who's joining in through Facebook? I think most people are on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel, but we do have some people joining in through Facebook live stream as well. All right. Good. Again, I don't. Okay, someone's just saying building muscle. I don't know. Is that a question? Feel free to elaborate if you have any questions there. All right. Building muscle at the same time. Do you mean losing fat and building muscle at the same time? Maybe that's what I'm saying here. Not sure. Can you build fat and lose muscle at the same time? I'm trying to piece together this, and I'm assuming that is the question. Mr. Yiggett. I know I'm butchering that name, but I'm going to call you Yiggett. Wyget. Yes, you can, and it depends on the situation. All right, and I'm going to give you an example of how this works. Okay, we got another one come through with maintenance calories. So can you build muscle and lose fat at the same time with maintenance calories? All right, we got it all there. Yes, you can. All right, and I'm going to elaborate on how this works, and it depends on the stage of fitness that someone's in. So for a beginner or someone who's coming back after a layoff. And the definition of that, let me just clarify. Like a beginner is someone who's never exercised before. So if you've never been to the gym, you've never, any structured training or nutrition, you're a beginner. If you've been working out on and off, which is where most people are, like, hey, I used to work out back in the day, but then I stopped working out and now I'm back at it again, the on and off. You still have to approach it like a beginner, because if your body is deconditioned, even though mentally, yeah, I know I used to work out back in the day, but I haven't done anything for 6 months or longer, your body is deconditioned. So it's starting at the beginner phase all over again. In that stage, anything you do consistently is going to produce results, right? Any workout that you do consistently, any sort of healthy eating regimen, or improving your nutrition in any way, shape, or form is going to have some positive results at that stage. Once you go through that, then you're going to hit a plateau. And every program goes through this phase, like regardless of how simple or how complex it is, every program goes through adapt, grow, plateau, or adapt, results, plateau, if you want to say it like that. So you adapt, meaning you try something new, your body has to adapt in response to that new stress, that new stimulus. After a while of doing that new stress, new stimulus, you're going to get some results. You're going to grow bigger, you're going to grow stronger, you're going to lose body fat if you're training and for fat loss, whatever. You're going to get that initial response. After a while, your body's going to adapt to that stimulus, and that's going to become like the new norm, and it's not going to provide any further results. Like you'll kind of be stuck in this maintenance phase after a while. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like most people you see at the gym, especially the regulars who are working out for a long time, they're probably in that maintenance phase. I've been kind of like in that phase myself for a long time, because the more advanced you get and the older you get and everything else, the harder it is to make further progress. When you're young, especially like in your teenage years and in your 20s. You know, those are the prime time for growth, especially like athletic performance and strength and muscle. As you get older into your 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond, I'm not saying you can't make progress, but the rate of progress is much slower. And this not just applies with fitness, it applies with everything. Like you take the average teenager, even if they don't do anything, like they don't go to the gym, they don't do anything. Everybody as a teenager gets bigger and stronger. Like if you take someone from 13 years old to 19 years old, go through their teenage years, everybody gets bigger, everybody gets stronger. It's just puberty, right? It's just the body growing, right? They go through that growth spurt, whether they try to or not. It just happens, unless you have some sort of growth defects or whatever. But that's, you know, that's a different topic. But as you get older, you don't just get bigger and stronger and healthier and fitter because you age. In fact, as you get older, it goes the opposite. Everybody kind of declines unless they're taking action to prevent that decline. So when you're going through this, can you build muscle? Can you lose body fat at the same time? Yeah, especially in the early phases, right? You can do it. Once you get to this point where you've been following a set training program for a while, you've adapted to it, and now you're kind of in that plateau, then you may need to manipulate the variables a bit to optimize more muscle gain or optimize more fat loss, right? So like whether you're trying to do like a lean gain body recomp, or you're trying to do a fat loss accelerator, as we have within the Muscle After 40 program, because like the 3 phases I mentioned there, like phase 1, metabolic reboot, that's kind of like build muscle, lose fat, optimize health and hormone, all that stuff. Once we do that, then we focus on fat loss accelerating, which the primary focus is on burning body fat. So we'll gear the training and nutrition towards stripping away maximum body fat while maintaining lean muscle. Once we have the body fat low, then we focus on building lean muscle while keeping the body fat low. So we go through those phases. But in the initial phase, yeah, you absolutely can build muscle and lose fat at the same time. Where this really gets tricky is a lot of times people are looking at advanced like bodybuilders and athletes where they go through like contest preparation, whatever type of contest or competition preparation that is. Like if it's a bodybuilder, they're going through a pre-contest cutting diet. If it's an athlete getting ready for a sporting event or whatever, they're probably going through their pre-training, you know, prep to peak for whatever it is they're training for. In those phases, that's where things can get a bit tricky, you know, because they're trying to peak for an event. But the average person, if you're not trying to peak for a particular event and you're just looking for overall health and wellness, then you can make overall progress in terms of muscle gain and fat loss, usually simultaneously. But when you try and specialize and peak for a specific event, like a bodybuilder peaking for a competition, they're not going to be putting on muscle if they're in a strict calorie deficit. Like the best that they can usually hope for, especially the further they get into their contest prep, is to maintain or minimize muscle loss while maximizing fat loss. And virtually every bodybuilder who gets contest shredded will lose some lean mass in the process. If nothing else, it's lean mass in the terms of losing water weight and glycogen and muscle fullness. You know, it's so in those situations, yeah, they're losing fat and losing muscle, but the rate of fat loss is much greater, and the end result is what they're looking for, right? They're trying to get that ultra shredded condition. Vice versa, once the contest is over and they want to maximize lean gains, yeah, they'll probably put on some body fat and some lean muscle, but hopefully the rate of lean muscle is exceeding the rate of fat gain. But as I mentioned before, I mean, I hate to use this word, but it's so true. It depends. It depends on the situation and the individual and all that. All right, let's see what we got here. RG Raul's joining in. Welcome. Says it's been a while. Medical bed rest took me from being overweight to being skinny fat, much lower weight, but with muscle loss and 20% body fat. What would your recommendation for people like this be? Well, first off, I mean, I'd want to know what the heck was the issue with the whole medical bed rest thing and focusing on getting healthy first. That's more important than muscle and fat and skinny fat and athletic performance. Overall health, like that's what we want to focus on first. Like in hierarchy of needs, like health trumps everything. Like without your health, nothing else matters. Like if you're not healthy, who cares what your body fat percentage is? If you're not healthy, who cares how much muscle you have or how much you can bench or how much money you have in the bank? Or like if you don't have your health, like Nothing else matters. So that's hierarchy number one, right? I want to find out what that is, what the issue is. I mean, if you had to have bed rest, then obviously there's some health issues there, and we want to get that taken care of. And for full transparency, I'm not a doctor. Don't pretend to be one. Don't even play one on YouTube, right? One of these days, I should come here with a white coat and a stethoscope around my neck and pretend to be a doctor. But no, I'm not a doctor, and I don't even pretend to be one. So, yeah, talk to your doctor about that one. Figure out, your whole health issues and everything else. Once you've gotten the okay, then you can focus on, optimizing your fitness and nutrition and everything else. And just like I mentioned before, the goal is to be better than you were before. Like, not getting hung up on what's the optimal program, what's going to maximize my results, what's been scientifically proven in a split test to be more effective than this and that. Like, is it better than you were before? And if you were on bed rest, anything is better. Like, if getting up and going for a walk is better. If you weren't eating and now you're eating real food, that's better than it was before. Like, focus on being better than you were before. And then just keep doing that. Keep getting better than you were before. I mean, if you want some help with that, feel free to reach out. I mean, I know you've been a part of the Muscle After 40 program a few years ago. I mean, hey, if you want to reach out, feel free to do so. And we can chat and have a strategy session and see what would be the ideal scenario for you and your situation. But, the optimal thing right now is health. Health is number one. All right, move on. Let's see what else we got. We have, I'll only be another few minutes. All right. Okay. That's my wife there. I have to clue this up shortly. I'll answer another couple questions. We'll move on. Let's see. Ragu G. I have swollen disc. How can I continue gym? A swollen disc. I'm assuming it must be maybe in your back or something like that. That's something I would recommend getting some medical supervision for. Like, check with your doctor, check with a physical therapist, or check with somebody who can address whatever swollen disc issue you have and see what's wrong, what treatment options you need, and what your options are. Like, that's beyond my scope of practice right here. Because I don't even know what the swollen disc is or what your issues are, or what your, you really need some medical supervision for that. I have Sean joining in from Facebook. Welcome, Sean. Glad to have you joining in. We've got Robert joining in from over in YouTube. Okay, we have more questions. Ragu says, I have a herniated disc. How do I fix it and continue the gym? Again, I will go see your doctor or physiotherapist to figure out what's the issue with that herniated disc. Now, with that being said, I know some people who have had herniated discs and still work out, right? They do modified workouts and very selective with their exercises to do things that they are able to do comfortably without irritating that herniated disc. But again, I don't know your specific situation or how bad it is or what so I'm not going to try and say, hey, go to the gym and you do this and this and this, right? Do leg presses instead of squats and, you'll be fine. Because I don't know. I don't know how bad it is. I don't know what kind of damage you have done. Like, that's something you really need to see someone in person. Ideally your doctor, or if your doctor recommends a physiotherapist or somebody or a chiropractor or whatever, but somebody needs to look at you and see what's wrong, what you got done, what treatment options are available, and then what course of action as far as therapy and rehab, and then, gym exercises and everything else. Again, that's beyond the scope of a YouTube comment for me. Let's see what else we got. Some time ago, you recommended a protein bar, and I'm trying to remember what. I think you might have, and another one says, some time ago, you recommended a particular protein bar. I'm trying to remember what brand it was. Would you mind reminding me again? Yeah, it was a couple of years ago. I had a sponsorship deal with Built Bar, and they sponsored several of my videos. So I did the YouTube advertising plug for Built Bar, and they are good bars. Like, that's the reason I, chose to do that sponsorship deal. Cause it was something that I actually do enjoy and truthfully recommended. But Built Bar was the name of those protein bars. And since then, I've seen them in more retail stores. Like I've seen them at Walmart before. I know you can go order them online, Built Bar. And the cool thing about Built Bars is they're very low in sugar. So it's a high protein bar, and it has whey protein as the main protein source, and very low in sugar. And they actually taste good. Like they're not hard as a rock. They're actually a nice, soft, chewy protein bar. It's actually, you know, an enjoyable bar to eat, because sometimes when it comes to protein bars, if they taste really good, the nutrition profile is crap. You know, it's mostly fat and sugar with like a scoop of protein thrown in there, you know, to call it a protein bar. And then sometimes if they have really good nutritional profile, they hard as a rock and they taste like crap, right? So it's that fine line of something that actually tastes good and something that's actually has a decent nutrition and macro profile. But the Built Bar, high in protein, low in sugar, and it actually tastes pretty darn good. So yeah, just if they're available at like local supplement stores, or just do a search online for Built Bar. But that's the one. All right, where else was I a second? Oh, I lost my place. Where was it? Second now. Built Bar. There we go. Okay, gotcha. Got Alexandros joining in from Facebook. Welcome. Glad to have you joining into our video chats. Got a question there. How important is direct ab work if your primary goal is strength and not aesthetics? The abs are very important for your overall strength and stability. So even if you don't want to have the six-pack abs and have the pretty boy beach body look and all that, which I totally get it. I mean, it's not for everybody. And like, it takes a lot of work to get visible abdominal definition. And is the work worth the reward? For a lot of people, it's not, because, you know, unless you're genetically lean and it's easy for you to get super low body fat and visible abdominal definition, which there are some people out there who it is easier for. I'm not saying it's easy, but easier. And then there's other people who are never going to have abs, regardless of how hard they try, you know, just due to their genetic makeup or whatever. It's just not in the cards. And it all depends on you, your individual situation, and what it is you're training for. But I mean, personally, I know if I like diet down to get contest shredded, like when I'm going through a contest prep, which I've done multiple times, right? I've been competing in bodybuilding since 1995, and right up until 2011, that's when I was regularly competing year after year. After 2011, I took a hiatus, and then I made a comeback back in 2021. But every time I competed, in order to get in contest shape, I had to strip off so much weight and so much body fat that my strength and athletic performance suffered. So yeah, I looked good from lean muscle point of view, like looked the best that I could, right? Looked my personal best. Whether that was good, I mean, that's all up to personal perspective, right? But the best shape that I was in terms of lean definition, but strength and athletic performance, down the toilet. Like I remember the last time I competed, when I made my comeback in 2021, it was really apparent, you know, after a 10-year hiatus, it just like, whoa, it really shocked me, like how much strength that I had to sacrifice in order to get that level of lean definition. And personally, it's not worth it to me anymore. I would rather have the strength and athletic performance versus the just look good and have the abs. So I totally get where you're coming from there, Alexandros, with that. But with that being said, training the abs, you know, the core muscles. And when I say the abs, I'm not just talking about the rectus abdominis, the muscles in the front, you know, the six-pack. I'm talking about the core in general. So your abdominals, your obliques, your lower back, the spinal erectors, like everything. Think of it like you're building a virtual or a human weightlifting belt of muscle around your core. Abs, obliques, spinal erectors, lower back, like all of it. All those muscles need to be strong, because that's what connects your upper and lower body together. Every exercise you do is going to engage your core to some degree. And if you have, think of like the chain with the weak link, right? Like the chain is not as strong as the strongest link. It's as strong as the weakest link. You could have a chain with all super strong links, but if one is a bit weak and rusty, where's it going to break? It's going to break in the weak link. So you don't want your core to be the weak link, right? You want that to be strong. And unfortunately for a lot of people, the core is the weak link. Like go back to Ragu here. Herniated disc lower back. Obviously, that was the weak link in the chain. Something let go there in the lower back. That was the weak link. So we want to focus on strengthening all those muscles. Again, abdominals, obliques, lower back, spinal erectors. And that should be done regularly. And what I find the best when it comes to core work in general, lower volume, higher frequency tends to be better versus like going in and having an ab day. Like, you know, some people say, oh, it's chest day, it's leg day, it's back day. I don't believe in having an ab day. Now, you could, but I think of doing a little bit more frequently would be much more beneficial and advantageous than going in and just dedicating an hour to abs once a week and then not hitting them at all. I'd rather you go in and dedicate, 10 minutes a day to train in your core versus going in there and just blasting it once a week with too much too soon, if you will. So that's the way I do it. And personally, I do some ab core work with all my workouts. Like today, when I was at the gym, I started off, I was doing some hyper extensions and I was doing some incline bench sit-ups. And that was my two primary core moves that I did. And at the end, I also did some mobility work for the obliques as well. So I hit all four sides of the core, if you will. But I do that every workout. I'll pick different moves. I mean, it's not always the same one every time, but I'll usually pick one or two or a couple different exercises to focus on working my core, and I'll throw that in with my workouts. If it's a weak link, you might want to do it right at the beginning when you're strong and full of energy, or you could throw it in as a finisher at the end. But the main thing is that you do it frequently. Frequency is more important. Short, frequent workouts is the best way to strengthen the core. But yeah, think of it like the chain analogy, right? You don't want your core to be the weak link in the chain. Like, hey, if you could have super strong legs, you could have super strong chest, shoulders, arms, everything else, super strong back. But if the core is weak, then that's the weak link in the chain that's going to give. All right, guys, I'm going to have to clue this up. I actually have my accountant is out in the room there now, and in the other room, obviously it's tax season here, so I got to get that clued up for the end of the month. So I'm going to have to clue this up, and I will be back again here next week, same time, same place. So again, we'll be doing this at 1 p.m. Eastern time, streaming from Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel, as well as the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook page. So make sure to tune in then. And if there's anything that you want more elaboration on, if you have any questions, comments, or you want some help, you want to have a strategy session or discuss a customized fitness and nutrition program to help you get in your best shape, feel free to reach out to me. I have my information down below in the comments or in the description below this video, right? I have my Facebook link as well as my personal email. So feel free to reach out to me and we can have a chat. And in the meantime, have yourself a fantastic weekend, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Take care. Over and out.